Hey y'all, so it's been a while since I've done a Q&A, and since I have so many people new to my account, welcome. I figured I would do a Q&A on Kamala Harris. I'm the encyclopedia on Kamala Harris, and I figured why not give people a chance to learn more about her. Now I know her record from front to back, her policies, her positions, what people try to lie on her and say she did when she didn't do it. I know all that stuff. So you guys answered. I got so many questions, so I will be here for a while. First 2 minutes on Twitter, check the rest on my YouTube. But I do have wine. You know I got to have wine. And I'm going to take a little baby sip here because this is my last glass. It's like a Pinot Noir with chocolate notes. It's called chocolate wine from the chocolate shop. So good. So let's see. First question. How would you address concerns about our time as DA and AG, especially for criminal justice reforms types? Okay, first thing I would say, a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand the role of an attorney general and the role of a district attorney. These are executive roles. They're policy making roles. They're personnel management roles. Kamala Harris was not marching her ass into a courtroom, locking up Pookie or JoJo for a dime bag of weed. Ain't nobody got time for that. When you are managing hundreds of people as DA, thousands of people as attorney general. She had a broad portfolio, particularly as attorney general. A lot of people don't understand attorney general is not the top criminal prosecutor. There is consumer protections. There's a wide variety of responsibilities that fall under the AG. Like, for instance, AG, she negotiated the largest mortgage settlement in the history of this country. And so that's not locking up people for weed, okay? But Kamala Harris was absolutely a progressive prosecutor. I have receipts from 2004 when they profiled her for her district attorney race. They were calling her a progressive prosecutor. People ran or are still running on things that she was implementing back when she was a district attorney. It wasn't always popular to be a progressive jam. Be clear about that. So I did a thread, Medium post, whatever you want to call it, 50 criminal justice accomplishments, reforms implemented, advocated for by Kamala Harris. I list out 50 things. There's more. But the point is that she has a very extensive record of receipts of actually caring about criminal justice reform. She did things, I'm just scanning through this list that I had. She did a lot of work with at-risk youth, with protecting children, for instance. She created the Bureau of Children's Justice. She did a lot of work for the LGBTQ community. When she was DA, she created a hate crime unit for the LGBTQ community. She created she convened a group of prosecutors to defend or to come up with a way to defend against the gay trans panic defense. That was something that she herself orchestrated. This was back in the 2000s, y'all, the early 2000s. She did a lot, like I said, she did a lot of work with children, juvenile justice systems. And she would tell you that she wishes that she could have done more on that. That is one thing that she will admit to. She's not primarily involved with that as district attorney. That really wouldn't be as much of her swim lane. But she did do a lot of things for sex trafficking. I know that she gets a bad rap because of this one bill that literally every single Democrat supported. But she created the Coalition to End the Exploitation of Kids, which was providing legal and health services to sexually exploited children, what they were called teenage prostitutes. She did reform in terms of not treating child sex trafficking victims as prostitutes, allowing them to get their records expunged. This is legislation that she helped push through as Attorney General, and the way that she changed the way these things are prosecuted as district attorney. There's so many things that she did. We want to talk about marijuana. Marijuana was illegal until 2018. Be clear. But as district attorney, she changed the way that marijuana cases were handled. There was no jail time if your only defense was possession. Okay, that's an example. She lowered the prosecutions for that. So a lot of times people look at where we are today and they try to recontextualize it to 2004, 2005. It don't work like that. Okay. What else did she do? Oh, another thing I would like to point out is that she really championed women, in particular, sexual assault victims. She ended the rape kit backlog, things of that nature. I can literally spend 45 minutes on that But just to direct your attention somewhere, 50 criminal justice reforms accomplishments by Kamala Harris. If you put that in 50 criminal justice reforms, and do a search on Twitter, do a search wherever, you will find that information. There's plenty of talking points. I promise you, if there is a concern that somebody has, then you will find an answer. Racial profiling, re-entry, childhood protections, rape protections, a number of things. Very, very important work that she's done. She has the receipts, people. So that's what I'll say about that. As far as trials, listen, you can pick any fucked up thing that happened in the 4 decades, you know, from 2016 on back, and say this is Kamala Harris's fault. And that's what people do. But it's not. She's not responsible for every person that ever went to jail. She's not responsible for every prosecution. Whatever the fuck happened, you cannot place culpability on Kamala Harris. People want to do that, but it's just not true. So it is what it is with that. Moving on. Have you seen this article from 2003? It has some really good information. So this is referencing a 2003 San Francisco Weekly article. I'm going to retweet the questions so you can look at my response to this. I did see that article, and I actually did a thread on that because I thought it was really interesting. Again, this was in 2003, and it talked about the kinds of work that Kamala Harris was involved in. It has people that were vouching for her professionalism and effectiveness as a prosecutor. And let me just read this one passage. So Kamala Harris earned her law degree in 1989 from Hastings. And it says here, she specialized, well, let me see this, telling her mother that the world needed more socially aware prosecutors. So this is a 2003 article. So this isn't some 2000 and at the time 19 talking point that Kamala Harris came up with for a campaign. She was saying back into as early, I mean, you could go earlier, but 2003 is documented. This was her rationale. She's been very consistent in her convictions. And I did another thread about that too. She specialized in child sexual abuse trials, and I'm quoting, a particularly difficult type of prosecution because juries are, Harris observes, more inclined to accept the word of an adult than a child. Alameda District Attorney Tom Orloff recollects that Harris has a good courtroom presence, a high success rate. She is genuinely a good person, and her social values will work well in San Francisco. So here you have a young Black woman, an attorney who could probably go make a shit ton of money as a partner somewhere, who decides that she was going to be a socially aware prosecutor. And not only did she do that, but she took on some of the most difficult crimes. Child sexual assault, which we should all be able to agree on, needs to involve serious consequences. We should not have fucking predators on children walking the street. And rather than taking on something she'd have a high success rate at, she still had a high success rate on, she went with her gut and her heart. So when people try to portray her as a person who's roaming the streets looking for people smoking joints, she was focusing on getting fucking hardcore criminals, child sex predators off the streets. And I applaud her for that. And if you don't, then I don't know what the fuck to tell you. But anyway, thank you for highlighting that. I put the thread in my video in there, so you guys can go back and watch it if you choose. That was back in September. Yeah, I've been at this for a long time. Next question. Can you highlight the intersectional focus of the senator's work? Thanks. So there's so much to say about this. I've done a lot of things on that during the campaign. I did a Black Agenda thread. It wasn't just me saying Black Agenda. Kamala Harris said it as well. Okay. I did a Latino agenda thread. I didn't get around to doing an AAPI, Asian American Pacific Island thread or anything like that, but she had one for each demographic, including if you want to talk about the Native and tribal community, if you want to talk about the disability community, if you want to talk about the LGBTQ community. One thing that's always impressed me about Kamala is when you listen to her talk about the issues, she knows her shit. Like, you ever hear somebody have like real high level bullet points and, you know, you can tell they're going in there, they have their talking points or whatever. You know, to be clear, Kamala has her talking points too. So I can say some of her stuff before she even say it. But when you have a conversation with her and when you observe a conversation with her, she can rattle stuff off. And she really understands. Like, for instance, when you talk about her Lift Act, let's take that for example. Now, on its face, it is something that you might say, well, it's just a general tax policy. That would not be accurate, because she understands the way that the tax code can benefit or how it sometimes disproportionately penalizes certain groups. And so when she talked about her Lift Act, she can tell you about how, you know, families are a $400 emergency away from ruin and things like that. But let me just go here. I'm trying to find just quickly. I did a thread on it. Let's talk about the Lift Act. Her Lift Act, which was up to a $500 a month tax credit for families making less than $100,000. Over 60% of Black households and 8 million families would have been impacted by that. And she can tell you about that. She can lay that stuff out. She had a home ownership plan, $100 billion program to increase home ownership in Black and people of color communities. It wasn't just Black. Be clear, you cannot just say Black. So you have to laser target your focus in ways that strategically targets your community, and it could pass through the motherfucking John Roberts Supreme Court. That's going to be all anti-quotas and shit like that. Be clear. So that's what she does. But she understands the home ownership gap, and that her plan would shrink the Black wealth gap by 31%. It would increase Black wealth by $32,113. Now, Black wealth is on average a couple of cents, dollars. So 32,000 is quite a bit of an increase, okay? So that's just some of the things, but it's not just it's not just Black people that she benefits. Now, you might be Black and you might be like, well, that's all I care about. That's fine. Or you might be Latino. You're like, well, what she got for me? Okay, well, she has a lot of stuff for you as well, because these same issues impact the Latino community. I don't want to make it seem like for instance, sometimes people make criminal justice seem like it's a Black issue. Sometimes people make immigration seem like it's a Latino issue. But there was a survey from We Are Unidos US on Latino priorities. And so I don't take my word for it, child. This is what they said. And I did a thread on this. I did a Medium post on it as well. And it talked about some of the priorities for the Latino community. And so let me just go to let's go to immigration. One of the things in child separation, shut down profit facilities, reinstate and expand DACA, eliminate the DACA rule to apply before you're 31 years old, allow Dreamers under 15 years old, fair and just immigration citizenship, path to citizenship, eliminate unnecessary green card barriers, things like that. But she didn't just come out with an immigration plan. You have to understand too, Kamala was on the front lines when it came to the Muslim ban. She was on the front lines when it came to the child separation stuff. She was on William Barr's. I don't think it wasn't William Barr at the time. It was John Kelly, I believe. Don't quote me. Oh, Christian Nielsen. They done been through so many goddamn people, but Kamala was on her ass about it, okay? And she's still introducing legislation about this. She's still on their case about all the shit that's going on right now we saw today that there are kids that are being infected in these detention centers. So these are some of the things. And like I said, I can just ramble on and on and on, but I'm going to get to some more questions. But the bottom line is you have a person who has a long history. If you look at her record, if you look at the things that she has proposed in legislation, it ain't just about a PDF. Anybody can put together a PDF. But if you look at what she's proposed, if you look at the letters that she's sent, if you looked at the questions that she's asked in different hearings, you will see a person that has a very, very in-depth understanding of intersectionality for a broad variety of people. And that's very important. Why is she such a badass? Somebody answered her mom. I agree. You know, she came from a very, very strong mother. She's also a Black woman. That counts for something. She's also an Asian woman. Is it Southeast Asian or South Asian? Y'all can correct me on that, but she's Indian as well. So you got to give her props for that. I know I emphasize the black part, but you know, shout out to her Indian side as well. Um, but you know what? Strength of a black woman. I'm still gonna put it off like that because even Kamala said her mom raised her as a black woman, so I'm gonna go with that. Kamala for VP. End of discussion. Period. Your favorite moment from the campaign, one that 4-year-old Reese would have never imagined. Well, I have a lot of favorite moments. There are moments of where I was in awe of Kamala Harris just as a candidate. Um, some of my favorite moments are personal in terms of my ability to interact with Kamala. I did get a chance to interact with her a few times. And I don't talk about it too much. I was like, Kamala might have to disown my ass one day, chill. As much as I talk shit on the fucking internet. So I said, let me go ahead and give Kamala a break. I ain't gonna say shit. But I will say this. It's a very simple story. I won't say what happened, but I was at an event. Kamala was, you know, it was a Kamala event. And it's so surreal to me. I was talking to Doug. Actually, I was talking to Doug, and then I just hear from a distance, Reese, hey Reese. And so I turn around and it's Kamala like yelling at me from across the room. And she's like, I have somebody who wants to meet you. And she's has this great big look of excitement on her face. And she's introducing me to this lady, and this lady's like, I'm a big fan of yours on Twitter. I thought it was really cool. Like, to me, it's cool to have somebody like Kamala who's like I'm not like, you know, okay, let me say it like this. A lot of times you're vying for attention with people because they're such an important person, and you're just like, oh my God, I just want to get a word, and oh my God, I'm so excited, I want to meet this person, you know. But for her to be calling my name out, and like, you know, it's just cool. Like, it's cool when somebody knows who you are. And so when she called me her friend on Twitter, you know, I got my life off of that shit. It wasn't a campaign moment, but I was like, that's my girl. So yeah, there's not more to that story other than I just thought it was cool. I thought when a woman like Kamala Harris, who's like an amazing to me, she's a sitting U.S. senator, she ran for president, is calling out my name and bringing somebody over to meet me about people. It should be the other way around. I just thought that was cool. I could have never ever imagined that moment, but that's just something I thought was just awesome. Anyway, what's the best way we should combat the incorrect notion that Kamala doesn't have a voting progressive record? Keep up the good work. Thank you. The best way is to push back strongly on it. There is a website called progressivepunch.com, and you can just do a search, progressive voting record, or voting record scorecard, or some progressive voting scorecard. And it shows unequivocally that Kamala Harris is the second most progressive U.S. senator. But what you're going to have is you're going to have people that don't like facts, chill. You know, it's very rare that I find somebody make a good faith argument for Kamala Harris. And by very rare, against her. And by very rare, I mean, I've never seen a good faith argument. Usually it relies on a pretense that's actually not true. And then when you present people with the fact, instead of saying, okay, now that I've been presented with this information I didn't know, maybe I should change my mind. They're like, oh, I just don't like her. Okay, well then why don't you just fucking say that? But Progressive Punch take a screenshot of it and show people, well, now how do you say she's not progressive? Her voting record is more progressive than Elizabeth Warren's. There's another website, I believe it's ProPublica. You can compare two senators' voting records. And so you can see that her voting record is very similar to Elizabeth Warren. It's very similar to Bernie Sanders. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. I think that the whole progressive notion is total fucking bullshit, though. I think what it's become weaponized against Black people in particular, because it's irrespective of what your voting record is. Or let me just say, it's become weaponized against Black people who are seeking power over their preferred white progressive candidate. Because, and this is no shade to Stacey, be clear, but people call Stacey Abrams progressive, even though Stacey Abrams' platform wasn't particularly progressive when she ran for the governors. And I followed her. I donated to her. I campaigned for her. But she ran on Medicaid expansion. She did not run on Medicare for all. She ran on legalizing small amounts of marijuana. She did not run on full legalization. You know what I'm saying? So these are just some of the things where people say, okay, well, Stacey is progressive, Kamala isn't. Well, how you figure that? So we're not normally having a fact-based conversation when we talk about progressive voting records. Somebody said, well, her record isn't long enough, so that's why it doesn't matter. You're full of shit. So I always respond with facts. People don't want to, I said it before, I'll keep saying it, people will believe a sensational lie over the simple truth. And at the end of the day, people put up these roadblocks, these justifications, just because they just don't want to support her. So it don't matter what the truth is, but it does not hurt to tell the truth. Anyway, let's always speak truth. Okay. Could you refresh us on her work regarding disability? So Kamala Harris was the first presidential candidate to put out an agenda for the disabilities community. I will address, she got some slack because she said ban straws, plastic straws. Okay, she was saying that in a climate change format. People said something, and she backtracked off of it. It's very hard to remember every single thing that you're not supposed to say this, don't say that, don't do this, don't do that. But Kamala is a listener. One thing I can say about Kamala is she really does her research. She really does her, she collaborates. If you look at press releases for Kamala's work, you will almost always find multiple organizations that is supported by many times, depending on whether people are trying to be competitive or not, you will find co-sponsors of her legislation in a variety of things. So she definitely has an extensive disabilities agenda. Go to kamalaharris.org to get more information on that. She took into account, and let me just talk most recently in her Vote Safe Act, she took into account the fact that vote by mail may not necessarily be feasible for the people in the disabilities community. They might need help voting and things like that. She got the support of the National Disabilities Rights Network for those provisions in her bill, expanding opportunities for people with disabilities. So that's just one specific thing in light of COVID with her Vote Safe Act, where she definitely wanted to introduce that kind of protection specifically for them. So she's done a lot on that. But like I said, if I started going into it right now, I would be at it for a very long time. KamalaHarris.org, though, she had a very specific disabilities agenda. I'd like to know whether or not she plans to get rid of the for-profit prison system. It's a disgrace. That was absolutely part of her agenda as a presidential candidate. She also wanted to get rid of the for-profit detention centers in terms of immigration. There is a mistruth, a lie, a smear about her saying that she expanded profit prisons in California, that she was for that. That is absolutely not true. So that's just a lie. That's just a lie. Kamala Harris is not for-profit prisons, period. I don't know if it's going to come up, but she's also against cash bail. She was one of the first people to push that in the Senate. She worked with Rand Paul on that, who was scumbag otherwise. But she did get Rand Paul to sign on to bail reform. A lot of people have since run on that, but Kamala Harris actually introduced a bill on ending cash bail in the Senate. Receipts. I would love to hear her stance on how Kamala has evolved on immigration. I don't know about the evolved part, because I don't know what that's insinuating, as though she was somehow hawkish on immigration and then she became more progressive. That would not be accurate at all. She has always been quite progressive on immigration. So I think she's actually been consistent on anything, or if anything, she's been very consistent on protecting, for instance, crime victims in terms of, what's it called? Oh, shit. What's that specific thing? Not immunity. Let me pause this. Okay, I found the word I was looking for. Sanctuary cities. Sanctuary states. Things like that. Okay, so she has a really strong record on that. I'm going to my thread that I did. Thread/Medium post on Kamala Harris' record as Attorney General. She did a lot of pro-immigrant work there. For instance, 2016, she filed an amicus brief supporting the right of children to have attorneys appointed in immigration removal proceedings. She raised money. She helped raise money for children, unaccompanied minors, to get legal counsel. So that was one of the things that she worked with. She supported legislation to provide $3 million in qualified California nonprofits to provide legal aid for these children. That's really important. She also worked with the SEIU on fraud and wage theft. You know, a lot of immigrants are subjected to that because they figure like, who you're going to call? You're going to call the police? No. And so she did a lot of work on that as well. I mentioned earlier her work in the Senate in terms of ending child separations. So I don't think that I don't think it's a matter of evolving. I think it's a matter of consistently championing the immigrant population, Latino population, the refugee population. Immigrants are not just Latino either. You have Asian immigrants, you have African immigrants, you have immigrants from all around the world, child. So she has been very consistent on that. Very, very consistent on that. Oh, also another thing too is with DACA, she introduced legislation so that the Congress can have DACA interns. That's something that was left out of the Dreamers and their ability to work in a variety of different fields. They weren't able to work in Congress. So that's another thing, just something else to think of. If Kamala asked you to be part of VP Communications team, would you take it? Probably not, just because listen. Kamala don't need me in my drama chat. Do you know how much I be on her ass about the shit that's come out of my mouth? Who got time for that? Do you think Kamala wants to be bothered? Oh, Reese said this, Reese said that. You want to think she want to be bothered pulling up screenshots all the times I told people fuck you and fuck off? Because people the hell out. No, I've been too off the chain in my life. I accept that, okay? So I'm not trying to be no problems for Kamala. I like my job. I don't know. I do have skills. I don't think I'd be the best communications person just because I bring too much baggage. But I'm always here to give my opinion, Jill, solicited or unsolicited. So Kamala has a very talented team of people around her. I really like what they're doing right now. They're getting her in front of black media, like I've been saying, black media. They're getting her out there. They're doing a bang up job. I love it. My only request, get that YouTube together, Jill. How many times? I got to call somebody. Somebody answer my call. Get Kamala's YouTube channel together. Why is her YouTube channel not posted? She's doing all this good work. She's doing all these interviews. You ain't got to upload it, child. All you got to do is create a playlist. Go search her videos all throughout YouTube and add it to the playlist. You can add videos from anybody's channel to the playlist. Please do that, Team Kamala. That's the only thing I would say. Just do that. A lot of people get their news from YouTube. So you have to get more on top of that. That's the only thing I would say. Upload your YouTube, your Twitter videos to YouTube. Get the content out there. And then that way, when people search for Kamala, they don't get all the hate mail. They get the Kamala stuff too. Cultivate your YouTube subscribers. She don't have that many. So cultivate that. That's what I would say. But other than that, I think they're doing a fantastic job. Maybe you could address why any Democrat who wants Joe Biden to defeat Trump has any ifs, ands, or doubts about Kamala Harris VP. What you think? There's a lot of reasons why that don't have anything to do with her qualifications. They don't have anything to do with her ability to deliver votes, her ability to govern. Operation Block the Black Woman. I'll just go there. Operation Block the Black Woman. A lot of people know that Kamala Harris is a force to be reckoned with. She's a political talent. And so they want to do everything they can to diminish and marginalize her. You'll find in some people saying the quiet part out loud. Oh, well, Kamala, she would almost guarantee to be the presidential nominee in 2024. So we got to stop her right now. That's what this is about. People are shook. But guess what? They're going to have to get the fuck over it. If I have anything to do with it, yeah, we have anything to do with it. All of us lifting up our voices and amplifying Kamala where they want to erase her, where they want to marginalize her. That's where we have the power and the onus is on us. We don't know what the fuck Joe gonna do, child, but I'm gonna keep my goddamn foot on his neck and I'm gonna keep making demands. Cause I'm telling you what, don't tell me shit about advocating for Kamala when every time I open up the New York Times or the Washington Post, it's fucking 10 editorials about how fucking Elizabeth Warren should be the goddamn VP. If that's okay, then it's okay for me to make my goddamn videos and my tweets. How heartwarming would it be to have Kamala's family represent America? Yeah, it'd be heartwarming to me. It'd be very heartwarming to me. I think it'd be heartwarming to a lot of Black people. Let me address something about Blackness. Okay, let me tell you something. Let's be honest. Kamala Harris gets a lot of anti-Blackness even from Black people. Okay? But guess what? So did Barack Obama. A lot of people were on Barack Obama's head too about his Blackness. But guess what? Motherfuckers got over it. And they will get over it too when it comes to Kamala. People don't necessarily see the vision yet like they need to. But once, I can tell you this. The reason why I know people get over it is because I've seen Kamala. I've seen the response to Kamala. I've seen the crowds that she brings. They're diverse crowds. They're very Black crowds. I've seen the way she's charmed people. I've seen the way she's turned people who are a little ambivalent to her into full on like, oh my God, this woman should be vice president or president, you know, depending on which time frame we're talking about. And I think it'll be amazing. I hate that the historic nature has been so diminished. And, you know, this could be a potentially historic VP pick. We've never had a Black woman VP nominee. We've had a white woman VP nominee, 2 of them, Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin. I might be missing somebody else. I think it's just 2 though. And we had a white woman presidential candidate who was Hillary Clinton. Black women are the ones that are still at least even getting a chance to have that position. And so I think it's very important for Black women, Black girls to see that representation. A lot of people did see that in the presidential campaign, but it didn't go far enough. We need to see it now. No question. Just showing you love and support daily. Those of us who know you, the realest hugs. Have a great day. You and hubby stay healthy. Thank you so much for that. That was very sweet of you. We already know that KH supports cannabis reform. She co-sponsored the MORE Act. If KH is chosen as VP, how effective will she be about influencing and convincing JB to end federal cannabis prohibition and deschedule cannabis out of the controlled substances act? Okay. Somebody answered some of that stuff, making it seem like maybe it's not a heavy lift or whatever. Here's the thing. Kamala has addressed this before, how, you know, sometimes it's more effective to have a seat at the table than to be on the outside, banging on the door, you know, with the pitchforks. She's in a position to have done the work. She's in a position to know this information firsthand and to have been a long-term advocate about what to do about this. Her bill passed in the House already, so there's already the support on that side. She's worked in the DOJ, in the largest state DOJ, so she has a lot of experience. I think that in particular, when it comes to Black women, you have to show experience, you have to show receipts in order for people to take you seriously. And she has that ability to do that. She has the ability to articulate that. So I think she'll be very effective in helping move Joe Biden in ways that he may not be there yet. And Joe, to his credit, has shown the ability to move as well with where he came around on gay marriage and other things. So I will give him that credit. I don't think it will be too much of a heavy lift. Position on Medicare for all. Okay. Well, Kamala Harris supports Medicare for all. She supports universal health care. Be clear, Kamala Harris introduced her own Medicare for all plan. She did not scrap Medicare for all. It was just her own plan. Bernie's plan is not the only kind of Medicare for all there is. I would remind you that the first Medicare for all legislation came from Congressman John Conyers. Okay? That was the first to introduce legislation. And he continued to do so until he stepped down. Bernie Sanders was not a champion of Medicare for all in the House nor in the Senate. The first time that he himself introduced Medicare for all legislation was in 2017 or 18. I think it was 2018. So it's not Bernie's way or the highway. Kamala Harris signed on to Bernie's Medicare for all plan. She has her own plan. But Joe Biden ain't Medicare for all. So it is what it is on that. He's pro Obamacare plus public option. Would you be able to touch on Senator Harris's record on supporting the gays? Well, she has a great record. She has a really good record. I think that, you know, there have been a lot of threads done on that. I did not want to replicate that. Let me pause this one more time. I'm going to try to find the specific thing I'm thinking about. Okay, I'm back. So the person I want to direct you to, she's on Twitter, Lisa Talmadge. Go to her pin thread. She has a thread on various people, LGBTQ records, and Kamala Harris is a thread on there. It has 82 tweets. Okay, there's tons and tons of information on there. What she's most known for is she was the first person to perform a gay marriage in the state of California as San Francisco DA. Proposition 8 was a California ballot measure banning gay marriage that passed. As AG, she ran against that, and she kept her promise, because her decision to not side with Proposition 8 is what ultimately led to the Supreme Court decision overturning Proposition 8. So she could have, as AG, defended that, but she did not. So I think she played a very instrumental role in, not I think, it's a fact, she played a very instrumental role in the legalization of gay marriage, basically because of Prop 8, via Prop 8. I mentioned earlier her work on fighting the gay trans panic defense. I mentioned earlier that she created the LGBTQ hate crime unit in as DA. She has a very, very, very strong record in terms of her voting record in the Senate, in terms of her record as AG, as DA, and all that kind of stuff. So she is a friend. So again, go to Lisa Talmadge, Talmadge, and you can look at that. It's a lot of these questions are so open-ended. They're so extensive. So I'm trying to give you guys at least some resources if you're particularly interested in a topic that you can go find this information. Thank you for doing that for people who still need to be informed as to why Kamala Harris for VP is the best choice for Joe Biden to choose as his running mate. Okay. Well, you're welcome. I'd love to hear more about her style of legislating. How and where she built relationships with other senators to get things passed, how she contributed to the committees she's on. She's so accomplished that she must be doing something worth replicating. I agree. There are some good articles on this. There's one article in particular about her work on the Senate Intelligence Committee. And this article came out during the campaign. Didn't get a whole lot of attention, but it did come out. And she got praise from Republicans and Democrats about how focused she is, how brilliant she is. This article is from BuzzFeed News, how Kamala Harris thrived on the Senate's powerful Senate Intelligence Committee. That's a very prestigious role. It's a very important role. They have briefings, I believe, weekly. They're closed door. They're long. They just recently came to the conclusion, it was publicized this week, about Russian interference in the 2016 election. If Kamala was a chair chat, it would have came out much quicker. But it says, 2 years Harris been on Senate Intelligence Committee have earned her the praise of her colleagues, Republicans included. She's used her skills as a prosecutor to climb the ranks of the establishment, has used those skills to great effect on the committee. According to Senate colleagues, setting herself apart as an incisive interrogator. Behind the closed doors of the committee, she's mostly a bipartisan actor for focus on information gathering rather than scoring political points. That's important. So, another thing, despite being a relative rookie, Harris has been influential at key times in the committee's high-profile investigation, right? So, not only did Democratic investigators turn to Harris for advice, Republicans did too. So this is where people say Kamala should only be AG. She has acquired some amazing skills through her experience as AG, but we're talking here in the Senate Intelligence Committee, which means we're talking about national security. We're talking about foreign policy. Those skills are transferable. On this side, this BuzzFeed article goes into it. If you're a Kamala fan, or if you just want to know, like you asked, how does she work? This is a great way of doing it. Look at her record of endorsements. She has a lot of partnerships. Almost the entire California delegation endorsed her. She had the most CBC endorsements before she dropped out of the race. She's a trusted partner. I remember 2018 when Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker were co-chairs of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Annual Legislative Conference. And so they were, man, I'm telling you, they were in and out of every room working it. But I will say that, you know, you could tell the collegiality that she has with people, the respect that she has for people and they have for her. She does a lot of collaboration. Let me just also make note of another thing, like for instance, with the Black Momnibus bill. Now, the House has a Black Maternal Health Caucus that was started, that was formed, or yeah, what do you call it? Founded by Congresswoman Lauren Underwood and Congresswoman Alma Adams, who's been a longtime champion of Black maternal health, as has Kamala. So they have their Black Maternal Health Caucus, but who led the charge on the Senate? It was Senator Kamala Harris. She was the first person to ever introduce a Black maternal health mortality bill called the Maternal Care Act. She collaborated with Black Moms Matter. Is it called Black Moms Matter? Yeah, Black Moms Matter. And they collaborated for an extensive amount of time on this. And so Kamala's style as a legislator, she likes to give facts. She works from facts. She's pragmatic, which has been made to seem like a bad thing. But here's the thing. You can't legislate in bullet points. You can't legislate in aspirations. You have to legislate in actionable things. So when you see her legislation, there is fact-based grants, like for instance, in the Maternal Care Act specifically, it provides an expansion of a successful program in North Carolina that has reduced the gap in the Black maternal versus white maternal mortality rate. So that's the way that she legislates. She understands statistics. She understands data. Kamala Harris was an economics major at Howard University. She was on the debate team, you know, so she's all about the facts. She's also about partnerships. She doesn't step on people to get ahead. As a matter of fact, she says it best. You know, as her mom told her, you might be the first person, Kamala, but make sure you're not the last. And there is a lot of evidence in that. If you look back to the 2018 primaries, she was endorsing people in the primaries, particularly Black people that went on to win those primaries. Some people, like for instance, Jahana Hayes, they had never had a Black person that was a congresswoman, but she was endorsed in the primaries. She endorsed Stacey Abrams in the primaries. So she took great political risk. She put her political capital into people. And I appreciate that, specifically in how she has uplifted so many Black people, Black women, because you do have people that are competitive. You do have people that feel like, well, you know, I can't help this person out because they might be my competition later. And Kamala does not have that mentality at all. And so she has taken what she's learned in her experience and she's given back. Like for instance, Marilyn Mosby, who is district or state's attorney in Baltimore. She talked about how Kamala mentored her. With Kim Foxx, state's attorney in Chicago, in Illinois, Kamala Harris served as on the transition team of Kim Foxx, even as she was attorney general, even as she was transitioning herself to become U.S. senator. So that's the kind of stuff. When I think about Kamala, I think about a person who's a leader, but I also think about a person who's a team player. I think about a person who reaches back. I think about a person who doesn't just look at what looks good on paper. Let's take Latifah Simon. Latifah Simon was a person that did not necessarily have the resume on paper, but Kamala believed in her. Kamala was hard on her, she'll tell you. And now Latifah Simon's doing, she's been doing incredible things for such a very long time. And so when you look at the kind of people that Kamala has formed partnerships or that Kamala's mentored, given opportunities to, they're doing fucking damn good things. And that to me is the mark of a leader. Not a person who climbed on people to get up to the top. Not a person who's all about me and has a God complex and I alone can fix it. A person who's going to do the work, who's going to lead and bring other people along. We need a pipeline of people. We need to keep our talent fresh. We need to keep the diversity of perspective, of race, of different backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. That's what she does. That was a tangent, but I think it was a worthy tangent because a lot of people don't know that. And I think that is very, very important. Somebody said, has she evolved on trans rights since her days of arguing in front of court for trans women to be held in prisons? Okay. First of all, let's be clear, since you obviously do not understand the way that an attorney general's office works. The attorney general is the attorney for government agencies in the state. When something happens for the Bureau of Prisons, for instance, they don't go out and hire Johnny Cochran or Lisa Bloom. That's what the attorney general does, okay? The attorney general represents the state agencies. They don't create the state agencies' policies. They represent them. And so the Bureau of Prisons policy was to not pay for gender reassignment. If that's not the right word, then I'm sorry. Okay? But that's the way that I know it. That was their policy. Okay? Now, again, the attorney general's job is to represent, not create policy for that thing. She's not an executive of this Bureau of Prisons. Okay? That's not the role of the attorney general. So, what she did and what has been documented, what has been proven, is that behind the scenes, she advocated for a change in policy which actually happened. So, as far as her arguing for that, again, if you do not understand how the Attorney General works, how the DOJ works, then you're going to have an incorrect opinion about Kamala's personal opinion. It's not her personal opinion. It's the job of the DOJ. Her personal opinion, which she was successful at getting changes on, was in favor of trans women. Thank you for playing. Please tell me more about her views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I don't know that answer, and it would take me too long and to find that answer out. So, I'm sorry. I'm assuming you said chances to be VP. I don't know, but I know I'm going to keep my foot on Joe's neck about it. You would think it would be a good chance that she's so incredibly highly qualified, but I don't know. We'll see. I hope that Joe got enough sense to pick Kamala Harris. We'll see. That's my choice. What's your favorite bill she sponsored? My favorite bill is the Maternal Care Act. It's so incredibly important to me because I'm a Black woman, and I haven't been blessed enough to have a child. I haven't tried to have a child either, but I don't want to die giving birth to a child. I don't want my child to die in the first year of my life. I don't want my family and friends to die giving birth to children. And I know as a Black woman, I've had experiences when I haven't been listened to, and I've had to advocate very strongly for myself and say, no, something is not right. This is not right. I need you to take my complaint seriously. Don't just tell me to take some fucking Tylenol. Don't just tell me it's all in my head. Something is wrong with me. And so I think that the fact that she was the first person in the Senate to introduce a bill that was specifically to combat the Black maternal mortality rate, which is something that I don't know a Black woman that doesn't know a Black woman who's died in childbirth. I don't know of one. Or a Black woman who has had a very scary childbirth experience. So that's very, very near and dear to my heart. I hated the way that her work was Columbus. I hated the way that her work was appropriated. I don't have a problem with more people joining the party and being like, yeah, we need to end this. But I do not like the way that she was erased. And I will not make apologies for not liking that because it's very important work. And I want somebody who was there and who cared about it before it was a campaign thing to get the credit for that, because she deserves the credit for it. So that's my favorite bill that she sponsored. It still hasn't passed in the Senate chair because we got motherfucking evil ass Mitch McConnell there. But I have no doubt that this is something that she would champion. She was the first to introduce the Black Maternal Health Awareness Week. And her and Congresswoman Alma Adams, they did that. And it's now, this was the third year. She even stepped it up even more for Black Maternal Health Week. And it's just a really important topic to me. Okay. So sorry, Dr. Mike, your questions went out of order, but I already answered what you were talking about in terms of the medical marijuana. the number 3 came up first for some reason. Somebody says, but I want to know her favorite recipe book. I don't know. That's a good question. Thank you. You're awesome. Do great work. Thank you. Where does she stand on the Green New Deal? Has she been in contact with Reverend Barber, Dr. Barber, on income inequality, homelessness, and poverty? She supports the Green New Deal. I think that Kamala Harris's work on climate change stands out. She has been a proponent for environmental justice for decades. As district attorney in San Francisco, she created the Environmental Justice Unit because people were dumping shit in Black and brown neighborhoods. And so that's something that she's long championed. As AG, she championed this as well. There are plenty of receipts on that. In terms of her legislation, she's introduced stuff like the water justice bills, clean buses, a variety of things. I don't want to understate what she's introduced, but go to kamalaharris.org. Also, you can go to harris.senate.gov. Do a search on climate change or New Deal or environmental justice. She's done some really, really, really amazing work on that. You know what? Okay, so I have a post on my Medium. Now that I think about it, did I ever publish it? And it was like something to the effect of like 50 things that Kamala Harris will change as president. That is a post on my Medium post. Okay, so I'm sure I have something in here about, and I have links. I have hyperlinks for each of these things. So let's see. Damn, I should have had this shit goddamn motherfucking 45 minutes ago. So Kamala worked with AOC to introduce a Green New Deal lifts up every community. So it's called the Climate Equity Act. Okay. And let me see what else is it. Hold Congress accountable, hold executive branch accountable, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, a lot of shit in there. But basically, it aims to establish accountability for justice and equity impacts of federal climate environmental actions. Frontline leaders from the most impacted communities should and will have a seat at the table and formulating the CA itself. But yeah, so basically it's about and equity is different than equality. But it's really about environmental justice. So that's one thing that she's done. Like I said, her voting record offers proof. Her legislative work and her executive work offers proof of that. So moving along. Oh, income inequality. Okay, so her LIFT Act is something that obviously reduces income inequality. It addresses wage stagnation. Her LIFT Act is skewed towards the lower end of the income spectrum. It also lifts millions of people out of poverty. Her Rent Relief Act does the same thing. I talked about this the other day. And I think the really important thing about it is that when you look at all of the legislation that's about income inequality and poverty and things like that, Kamala Harris's legislation had the highest impact. Individual bills, not even just when you combine the two, but individually, the LIFT Act and the Rent Relief Act had the highest impact on reducing poverty in terms of millions of people and reducing the poverty rate. So this is something that she has clearly thought about. And I think another important aspect of it, also increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Home ownership gap, I talked about that earlier. I haven't talked about it yet, but the entrepreneurship plan, education, a lot of things. For instance, income inequality with teachers. She wanted to make a federal investment in teacher pay. So there's a lot of things that she's invested in. Homelessness. She did a bill with Auntie Maxine, with Maxine Waters, to, let me see if I can pull this up quickly. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yes, here we go. Ending homelessness. Housing is Infrastructure Act. Okay. And please tell me there's bullet points up in here. Okay. $70 billion. I think the bill overall was $100 billion. $70 billion to Public Housing Capital Fund, building, modernizing, and rehabilitating public housing. $6 billion dedicated to elderly households. persons with disabilities, and Native Americans living in tribal lands. Again, that's what we're talking about, intersectionality here. $1 billion for rural multifamily preservation, revitalization, $10 billion development block grant funding, etc., etc., etc. So, ending homelessness. There's so much that she's worked on. I guarantee you that if there's a topic, Kamala Harris has done something about it. I'm not just talking about slapping her name on as a co-sponsor. I'm talking about actually legislating solutions. Mitch McConnell is the Senate Majority Leader. So it's not like these are going somewhere, but there's a very, very, very clear documented history of her work. Also, as far as has she been in contact with Reverend Dr. Barber? Yeah, she actually participated in poor people's presidential forum. So yeah, absolutely. Somebody said, "You go, girl. K-High forever." Okay, but why you going Women Warriors? Are you just talking about you just pro Whitmer because she's Michigan? But you said Biden Harris, girl. I'm gonna take your word for it. Would you I'm assuming what you're trying to say here is, how would you counter the stance that Kamala locked up Black people? Also, the truancy issue. Folks claiming how that policy affected people of color. Here's what's problematic to me about the whole Kamala locked up Black people. Did Black people who commit crimes go to jail? Yeah. Did she arbitrarily round up Black motherfuckers off the street just to say, hey, you go to jail, you're Black? No. The incarceration rate for Black people went down when Kamala Harris was AG. The incarceration rate has mostly been relatively steady in the state of California. If you go back to the 70s, Chad. Kamala Harris, California is, people like to say, oh, California is a blue state. It's not entirely a blue state, be clear. And there's a lot of very, very strict laws, archaic laws that are popular in California. So I don't abide by the notion that Kamala locked up Black people for shits and fucking giggles, because she didn't. Now, if you think that Black people shouldn't go to jail for crimes that they commit just because they're Black, how does that work? Somebody bust you upside your motherfucking head, break into your car, steal your shit, they shouldn't go to jail? Oh, okay. So you don't call the cops then. Okay, that's what you said. I don't have enough left. But anyway, Kamala Harris still addressed many, many times the fact that the system does not treat everybody the same, that it does not treat Black people the same. And she took actions to rectify that. For instance, her racial profiling advisory board, she established that. She required her department, the Department of Justice, to get racial bias training. She and wore body cams and things like that. So she did not lock up Black people for the sake of locking up Black people. She didn't lock up anybody for the sake of locking them up. People who committed crimes went to jail. Now, I would concede that, you know what, can't nobody say 100% of people in jail are innocent. But did she ever just target people? No, she did not do that. As far as truancy, Kamala did not lock anybody up for truancy. What people do not understand is that truancy have been illegal in the state of California since the 70s. Kamala Harris did not come along and say, let's make truancy a crime out of pulling the shit out of a hat out of a bag. It had already been a crime. What Kamala Harris did was she helped standardize and make sure that what was happening was that the schools were getting involved and not disregarding the fact that children were truant. And so she helped put in process these metrics and these steps that the schools had to take. And interesting, there was a hit piece on Kamala, the human cost of Kamala's war on truancy, which, by the way, the poster woman had nothing to do with Kamala's truancy. It was due to a anti-gang program in Orange County. Now, the article concedes that the person who actually arrested the woman might have had his own political agenda. So how the fuck, if he had his own political agenda, each individual DA is empowered to prosecute people however the fuck they want to prosecute people. How is that Kamala's fault? It's in the article. That's a hit piece on Kamala. But they bank that you don't critically think. They bank that you don't read and challenge the assertions that they're making. But an interesting part in the article that's even meant to be a smear piece, child, is that even where they said is that the places that were the harshest in terms of prosecuting truancy under the old law, truancy prosecutions went down under the new law. So if the truancy prosecutions went down, even in the harshest places, then how the fuck was Kamala just locking people up? Make that make sense. So, but what's easy to do is it's easy to conflate criminal and black. It's easy to say, well, whenever something is a crime, that means you're targeting black people because they're synonymous. And even some black people, buy into that as well. So the truancy issue was about keeping kids in school. And it was about, the fact that kids who fall behind are more likely to drop out. People that drop out are more likely to be homicide victims. It's really that simple. And so, people look at where we are in 2019, 2020, and they recontextualize what was going on back in 2004, 5, 6, 10, and it's not the same thing. So that's what I have to say about that. Kids need to be in school. How about that? But this notion that, like I said, that stuff was targeted at people of color, or that even that things were indifferent to people of color when looking at the statistics of who was homicide victims because of they were school dropouts or who was not in class and what those kids looked like and how they were falling behind and how they were the victims. That's what I would look at. Okay, what are some of Kamala Harris's more progressive ideas for building up new businesses? Even though we focus on women of color, there are plenty of races in the mix of poverty. How will Biden-Harris 2020 ticket help integrated families while protecting individual spirit of communities? That was a lot in that question. Well, I think that what's progressive, in my opinion, about Kamala Harris's ideas, number one, is that, again, you have this idea of equity, of understanding, and Kamala Harris will tell you, people say, oh, Kamala Harris is a rising tides lift all boats. If you fucking heard Kamala Harris talk, she says the exact opposite. She literally says rising tides does not lift all boats. She literally says that. So that's how when people say certain things, I'm like, have you ever listened to her talk? Because that's like literally the opposite of what she says and what she stands for. But she understands that people aren't starting at the same starting point. So equality would mean that I'm starting here, you're starting here, and we're both going to get the same $5. Equity means, okay, I'm starting here, you're starting here, so now you got to bring me up to here. That's what equity means. And so I think that's what's progressive about her policies. And so that's one of the things. I think what's progressive about it as well is that it's actually doable. Like, if you want to define progressive as whatever Bernie Sanders is for, then even though she has a lot of similarities in terms of her voting records, then I can't help you. I'm not talking to you personally. I know who asked these questions. I know you're not a Bernie person. But I look at progressive as something that's actually going to move us forward. It's going to result in progress. Progress is closing the Black home ownership gap. Progress is closing the wage gap for Black women, Native American women, for Latina women, and even white women to white men. That's what progress is. Progress is ending maternal mortality, but in particular, ending the massive gap that Black mothers have in their mortality rates and Black babies have in their mortality rates as well. That's what progress looks to me. Progress is where you have clean air, where you have clean water, regardless of what kind of community you have, where you have a good education, access to a good education, where you have access to broadband. That's what progress looks like to me. And so in that regard, Kamala has a lot of things. New businesses. She had an entrepreneurship plan that wasn't a giveaway to, gentrifiers and all this other kind of stuff. It was actually laser focused at people in communities, and opportunity zones and things like that. And so I'm sorry, that was a little more vague, but she had a lot of stuff. How she will help protect individuals, spirit of communities, again, I think I kind of touched on that in terms of my idea of what progress is and how she has a solution for that. But I think that she understands individual communities, and it's like I said, if you've watched Kamala, and she did a Native American forum, she could speak to those issues even after they campaigned. She was given an award by a Native American organization. I don't have it off the top of my head. She still talks about Native American communities. She still talks about Puerto Rico, for instance. She still talks about Latino communities, Black communities, Asian communities. She's partnering with Mazie Hirono, and I can't remember the other senator at the time, to tackle the discrimination, the hate crimes, for instance, against Asian Americans with this whole pandemic, talking about how Native American communities are being ravaged by COVID-19, talking about Black communities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'll say about that. She'll help you because she's a voice for them. And she's not just a voice, but she has solutions. That's what's important to me. Anybody can talk. Anybody can be like, hey, whisper in their ear. She actually has solutions. Very, very, very depth. A depth and a range, breadth of experience and what to do. How happy would you be to see Kamala Harris as VP? What would you have her focused on regarding policy in her first 100 days? Also, how likely would it make her to be the presumptive nominee after Joe Biden, as he will likely only do one term by choice? Well, we don't know if he will, Chad. That's what we all assuming. We're going to be molded as fuck if 2024, he's like, ha, bitches, I'm running again. I would say, let me answer that question first up. I think that no matter who is the nominee, or who matter who's vice president, there's probably going to be a primary challenge in 2024. That's what I think. Particularly if it's Black ass Kamala, because they're going to be like, oh, fuck that shit. You're not getting a free pass to the presidential campaign chair. We're going to primary the fuck out of you. But I still think she would be the odds-on favorite. You want to know why? Because Black people choose the nominee. And so as long as Black people say, hey, y'all not about to do our first Black vice president like that. Yeah, she earned it. She's vice president. She did a good job. We're going to make her president, and she'll be straight. And that's what people are afraid about. As far as how happy would I be to see, I would be thrilled. And I've stated so many times in so many ways why I think she's the right person, but I want to be represented. That's what the most gratifying thing would be, is to know that there is a woman who I will feel personally protected by. I will feel personally seen and heard by. That's what's important to me. The issues that affect my community, that affect every single underrepresented community that's been brushed aside, that's been left behind, that's always been on the chopping block when it's time to make compromises. I would feel so much better having her there, more so than anybody else. So that's what I would love. As far as our first 100 days, listen, I don't know what Joe's priorities would be, but the bottom line is we're going to be still dealing with COVID. And she has shown remarkable leadership in terms of COVID, in terms of intersectional policymaking, in terms of understanding how the different agencies work and sending letters to them, in terms of understanding how we can legislate in the Senate. And I think that's really important. One of the biggest benefits of picking Kamala is that she's already been working this pandemic response in the Senate. She's been coordinating with mayors in California and the governor. So she understands how to coordinate local and state responses. She understands the federal response coordination. She understands the different agency response coordination. And so that is so critically important, where we could potentially be at a time where we would be hopefully nearing a vaccine. And, there are reports that the CDC is expecting there could be a second wave of COVID, okay? Where in the winter, when it's flu season again, we could see a whole nother wave, and they're saying it could be even worse than what we've seen this time. And so we're going to need a person who's already been intimately involved in the COVID response. That's not going to be Joe, be clear, because Joe is a private citizen right now, so he can have calls, he can have podcasts. But Kamala is actually legislating. She's actually doing the work. She actually has authority. She actually has a bully pulpit. And so that is a really, really, really underrated quality. that she has. And even as opposed to governors, where governors are focused on their states, and yes, they have to coordinate local, state, and federal as well, but their focus is on their state. And so, you know, they won't have time to be campaigning, for instance, or they're going to have to deal with their constituents who want their focus to be solely on their state and not on the campaign or anything like that. So first 100 days are going to be COVID. That's why Kamala need to be in that office. Okay. Kamala would be making excellent VP, etc., etc. Thank you. I agree with that. How would you address people saying that Kamala doesn't help electorally because she's from a reliably blue state of California? Oh, and the Kamala's a cop notion. How do we fight back against that? Okay, so now let's be clear. There's been no evidence that the state that a VP is from has any bearing on the electoral chances or outcomes of the election. That has been disproven. Okay, so just because you have Gretchen Whitmer does not mean that you're going to win Michigan. That's just a fact based on how we have seen elections play out time and time again. Paul Ryan was from Wisconsin. Did Mitt Romney win Wisconsin? No, he didn't. And we can go on back and forth, okay? So it doesn't make a difference. So people who want to focus on that, oh, what's a blue state? That's a stupid ass argument. Also, California is not monolithically blue. California has a lot of Republican parts in it. In fact, when it came to winning back the House in 2018, California was a big part of that because I think it was 8 seats that flipped from Republican to Democrat. And so Kamala does a lot of good electorally in the state of California in terms of keeping the House. We're going to need to hold on to the House and we're going to need to defend the Senate. In terms, let's talk about capturing the Senate. Kamala Harris has held virtual meet and greets for Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, for Steve Bullock in Montana, and for Sarah Gideon in Maine. Those are 3 seats that we could potentially flip. Some are easier to flip than others. But she has already been lending her political talents, her political capital, and her political network to helping flip the Senate. That's an important attribute that you want in a vice president. You want a vice president that can raise money, something that she has been able to do for down ballot tickets. She did it all in 2018. She was the most requested surrogate. Even Sherrod Brown in Ohio, she was the most requested surrogate for him. And so that's important electorally. You cannot win without money. You cannot flip the Senate without support. Okay? And so that's an important argument. She will have a galvanizing impact for Black voters. People say, oh, well, she wasn't popular with Black voters. That's not true. That's not true. She dropped out because she wasn't able to penetrate in Iowa. She didn't drop out because she wasn't able to penetrate in South Carolina. She dropped out because she wasn't able to penetrate in Iowa, and she wasn't able to raise the money. Operation Black. It's hard as fuck to raise money when you're a Black woman trying to become president, and everybody says, I want a white man to be president. Hello? Because did Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar beat any of the white men? No, they didn't. So, when you go to her events, if you look back, go ahead and look back at the footage of different people's events. Kamala had the most diverse and most Black audiences out of everybody, period. Even when Joe was polling the best with the Blacks, Kamala still had the most Black people at her audiences. Kamala is a cop notion. Kamala is a cop was started by an alleged pedophile. Did y'all motherfuckers know that? This is what I don't understand, and I have touched upon this. People take something that's started by fucking degenerates and run with it. How the fuck do y'all let a goddamn pedophile, a white woman pedophile, alleged pedophile, have y'all go against a Black woman that's trying to help our Black motherfucking asses out? How does that work? That's stupid. Kamala is the cop. Did Kamala say I'm the top cop of the California? Yeah, that's technically what the fuck she was. So, does that mean that she was out there doing shit that she wasn't supposed to do? No, she was a great attorney general and she was a great DA. Now, If you don't like cops, then I don't know what the fuck to tell you. At the end of the day, she had a job to do. She did it, and she did it exceptionally well. So, if people want to go ahead and run with that Kamala as a cop shit, fuck them. Okay. Let me see. Sorry. Am I getting close? Because it's already been an hour and 15 minutes. I don't even know if anybody's still watching this shit. Where is she at on the quarantine? That's a very vague question, but I don't know if you mean, is she pro stay home, save lives? Because I would say yes. So I don't know what else you want me to say there. What is one of the strongest pieces of evidence that Kamala Harris worked in California as AG to help Black people rise? B.S. Sanders can't label her as the opposite of an advocate for Black civil rights. What is a powerful common argument here? It's a lie that she was. So Kamala Harris was anti-Black civil rights. That's fucking stupid. It's an absurd notion. You can look at her Back on Track program, for instance. Let's also be clear. California is like 6% Black. I don't know why the fuck people act like California is like Atlanta or some shit. It's not all Black people in California. How the fuck could you even legislate in a way to surgically target 6% of the population? Like, I mean, let me not say that because Republicans do it all the time. Let me not say that. Let me just say this. The notion that California is not even really a Black state. It's not Mississippi. It's not Louisiana. It's not Georgia. It's 6% Black. San Francisco, 6% Black. So, where do people even get these notions from? That's what I'm confused about. Do y'all motherfuckers, half these motherfuckers have never even stepped foot on a plane to go to goddamn California. They've never stepped foot in California. They don't know what the fuck San Francisco is like. The extent of what they know about California is what they seen on Boys in the Goddamn Hood or 90210. So, you know, I just think that the notion is stupid. If people want to basically say Black people as criminals and criminal justice, then she has a very extensive criminal justice record. If people want to talk about her record as Attorney General, beyond that, which was extensive, talk about the mortgage settlement and other things, she has an extensive record on that. But Kamala, I'm telling you, California does not have HBCUs. California is not a very Black state. So I don't know I just don't understand where people are coming from with that. But in terms of her legislation, like I said, Maternal Care Act, her HBCUs, things like that, she has an extensive record on that. So if Kamala Harris were a Mortal Kombat character, what would her finishing move be? Listen, I can't quote too much Mortal Kombat shit, but I would just say, I don't know, child. What would it be? A high kick or something? A punch? I don't know. I'm going to go with my logo. Punch. How about that? Sorry. I can't be more exciting with that answer. Okay, I'm almost to the end. Black, woke, general Black, and just people of African descent are seriously focused on what's in it for us. Here we go with the locking Black people up again. The perception as she has of locking Black people up as well, what appears to be fake progressive agenda exists for a reason. Why? Well, why? Because one of the greatest tricks is convincing Black people that the people that are for you are against you, right? I mean, you have a person who again, first person in the Senate to ever introduce the Black maternal health bill, right? You have a person who has talked for decades about the the disparate treatment that Black people receive in the criminal justice system, who has fought for reforms for decades. And you convince people that person, a person who actually would do something about it, is the enemy. People are very threatened by Kamala, which is evidenced by Operation Block the Black Woman. 68% of the social media attacks were geared or targeted towards Kamala. And she's a threat. She's a threat to the white patriarchy. She's a threat to white supremacy. She speaks truth. That's very, very, very powerful and very, very threatening. Okay. And so that's a big part of it. Another convenient thing that it does, right? When you talk about Black people, with the premise being that criminal and Black are synonymous, you help further this narrative that that's the extent of what the conversation on Black people needs to be. It's talking about criminalization, criminals, crime or whatever, criminal justice. You don't talk about home ownership. You don't talk about Black maternal mortality. You don't talk about income inequality. You don't talk about the healthcare inequalities. You don't talk about the education inequalities. You don't talk about any of that. You just talk about criminals, and that's Black. Well, everybody Black is a criminal, and so I think it just keeps our focus on the wrong thing. It keeps us distracted. Um, And so I just think that's what the agenda is. The agenda is to actually prevent a person who would do something about the shit from being in a position to do something about the shit. That's what the fucking agenda is. And we're we're so susceptible to disinformation and misinformation. Everybody's an expert, JL. People are belligerently fucking ignorant. I promise you, it's very, 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 very rare where somebody makes an assertion about Kamala that's totally wrong. And I can demonstrate with facts. I can demonstrate with screenshots, articles, whatever. It's very rare that person says, oh, I was wrong. Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for clarifying. That happens maybe 1 out of 200 times. Most of the other times, they just move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next smear, the next lie. Now, to be fair, they only have about 5 or 6 because they haven't done a lot of research. Most of them have read The Intercept. Most of them have read Larry Baselin's funky ass post, and that's the extent. That's how far they go. But it's hard. It's hard to combat that because people are ignorant and people are belligerent in that, and people are convicted in being ignorant and being wrong and being loud and wrong. Now, to be clear, this is not exclusive to Kamala. Kamala is just the biggest target because she's the biggest threat. But let me tell you, if it's Stacey Abrams in that position, even if it's Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar, who basically got through the whole primaries without anybody really attacking them, it's going to be a different story. They're going to be subjected to the same shit. So it's just Kamala's time in the barrel because everybody was like, we got to get this Black motherfucker out because she could win the Black vote, and whoever wins the Black vote is going to be the nominee. And so all guns were blazing on Kamala. That was a miscalculation, obviously, because Joe Biden was uncontested for the Black vote. But I think people expected her to just sit up there and go and continue to struggle to fundraise and just be the punching bag so that she can, filter away some votes from Joe, even though she was outgunned. And she said, fuck that. And more power to her. I appreciate that. I think she ran an amazing historic campaign. And yeah. But Black people, we got to wake the fuck up. We have to wake the fuck up. Because I'm telling you right now, there's nobody else. I say white. I don't know about the Black folks because I haven't heard the other people talk as much about Black maternal health or some of these other things. But there's nobody white on that stage who was on that stage or who's being bandied about that has the cultural competency, not bullet points, not PDFs, child, to speak with authority. And like I said, to speak with conviction and not put us on the chopping block. There's nobody else with that but Kamala, in my opinion. Okay. Last little question by this motherfucker. Okay. Being Black. Oh no, okay. He or she is talking all kind of big shit. You know, a lot of motherfuckers, I guess, some kind of animal or some like little anime thumbnail. But I'm gonna go ahead and answer your funky ass question. Why shouldn't we be skeptical of Harris being Obama in the skirt? Last I checked, people love Obama, so I'm just trying to figure out how that's even an insult. Someone who uses Black America to do corporate America's bidding. She said she supported Medicare for all, then walked back as a primary winner on classic Obama one-on-one. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, again, like I said, Obama in the skirt. How is that an insult when Obama was elected twice and he's still incredibly popular to this day? So that's the compliment. As far as using Black America to do corporate America's bidding, what the fuck are you even talking about? This sounds like some Bernie bro shit that you just fucking make up, pull shit out of your asshole. Makes no fucking sense. What do you even what does that even mean? Kamala Harris has never even had a corporate job. Kamala Harris has only been in public service her entire fucking career. You think it's corporate America's bidding to say that families get $500 a month tax credit so that, you know, they can afford emergency? Where is the corporate America's bidding in that? What the fuck is you talking about? To end homelessness? To end poverty? To end the wage gap between teachers and private sector? Where's corporate America's bidding in that? What the fuck are you talking about? I've already discussed the Medicare for All. Kamala has her own Medicare for All plan. Bernie Sanders did not create, nor does he have intellectual monopoly on Medicare for All. There are a variety of ways to get to Medicare for All, one of which is Kamala's, and it has been praised as being a very effective Medicare for All. It's actually quite similar to Medicare as we know it, which is you have the government-run Medicare, and then you have Medicare Advantage, which is private-run Medicare. That's what Kamala's Medicare for All does. Period. No matter what the fuck you Bernie supporters want to say, that's what Kamala's Medicare for All plan is. So you can go ahead and talk your funky ass shit. Still saying more stuff, black and lead and whatever the fuck else that you saying. Fuck out of here with that. Bernie Sanders done already lost, child. He's never going to be president. No matter how much you slander Kamala, Bernie Sanders ain't going to be president or vice president. So, with that being said, looks like I've gone through all my questions. I know I was an asshole to that person. Listen, I said I would answer your questions. I never said I would answer them nicely, especially if you being a little bitch and asking shit that's fucked up and you're trying to be an asshole. Then I'm not going to be nice. But to everybody else, I appreciate the questions. I hope that you learned a lot. Again, let me just repeat some resources: KamalaHarris.org, harris.senate.gov. You can go to congress.gov. My Medium is Black Women Views on Medium. Twitter, you can find all kinds of shit. If you do a search for Mega Thread, how about that? Do a search for Mega Thread, and you can find most of my threads on Kamala, on everything. California AG, California DA, all kind of stuff. Black Woman in Congress is a site that Heather Rose created, and it has her legislative work that she's been doing as well. It's another resource. Thread Reader app, if you look up my handle on Thread Reader app, you'll find a lot of stuff. Lots of good stuff out there. I'm not the only person that's written stuff on Kamala. There's a lot of good stuff. Even on Medium. There's a lot of bad stuff on Medium, but there's a lot of good stuff on Medium too. Other good stuff on there. So thank you for staying tuned this long. I'm gonna finish up this last little bit of wine that I have. And cheers.